Hey guys, this is going to be section 3.4. And you can tell we're going to be talking about horizontal vertical lines. And we're going to be talking about writing equations in standard form. So when we look at this, we're just going to start out very clearly what standard form is. Standard form is a way to write an equation of a line. In this form, it's going to be ax plus by equals c. Now remember, our definition for something to be a linear function before was in the form y equals mx plus b. Now this is our gold star form. This is going to be called slope-intercept later on. That's going to be really important. But this is a form that's going to be given to you very often. I can promise you on any standardized test, this is going to be given to you. And it's also really helpful for a couple of reasons. Now, I just want to get into what the mathematics of the form is here. This part can get a little bit confusing. So it says it can be written in the form ax plus by equals c. And always say that a, b, and c are real numbers, so these have to be numbers, and then they are not both zero. So really it just says start to consider what happens. Well, if a and b are both zero, anything times zero is zero. You end up this whole side where zero, and you would not have any more variables. And one thing I know some people are getting a little confused on when we talk about the variables here. I know A and B and C seem like variables. They're variables because we don't know. So they're really constants. These variables, the X and Y, those are the variables in our problems for things that can change. Remember, I keep talking about specific instances. So think about the amount of money you have and the hours you work. If the amount of money, the hours you work change, the amount of money you have changes. But the amount you make per hour does not. These would be just the unknowns, like I don't know how much you make per hour. Now, we're going to start looking at what happens if A is zero or B is zero, okay? So when A is zero, the equation becomes by equals C. What that means if it's A is zero, anything times zero is zero, so you end up with just by equals C, okay? And then if you try and solve it, you see y equals c divided by b, okay? Now because c and b is a constant, you can just write y equals b. All that means is y equals some number. And then the same exact thing happens for x. Now let's go a little bit past that, because I want to actually show, because they show down here, oh look, y equals b. So what that really means is, let's say I have 3y equals 6. When I solve for y, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I would have y equals 2. Up till now, our only method of graphing is to plot points. And all I know is y equals 2. So if I was going to do a table, I would do an xy table. What if x is negative 3? Well, y is 2. What if x is negative 2? All I know is y is 2. If x is negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and x is any number you can think of, what's the only thing I know for sure, according to our equation? Y is 2. So when you look at our line, remember how we graph, left tells x right, y tells up down. So when I go to plot all these points, negative 1, I would be up at 2. Negative 2, I'd be up at 2. Negative 3, up at 2. No matter what x value you put in, don't I always go up to 2? That's what this equation's telling me. So whenever you have an equation where it's y equals some number, you're always going to end up with a horizontal line. And that's the only thing that can happen because that's all we know. Now, let's flip it. Let's look at the x's. Well, what if I knew 3x equals 12? Well, now I would know, divide each side by 3, x would equal 4. And if I made a table, this seems a little bit different, but just follow the same logic, x, y. If I needed y to be -2, x would have to have been 4. Y to be -1, x had to be 4. Y to be 0, 1, 2, 3, x is always 4. That's all I know about this. Okay, well, x is 4, y is 0. X is 4, y is 1. X is 4, y is 2. X is 4, y is 3. And then once we get all our points, we get a line. We get a vertical line. Remember, big concept. This one is a function. This one is not a function. And if you put it in real concepts, real world concepts, it'll make sense. This is like a volunteer job. So if I was going to think the amount of money you make, so y is the amount of money you have coming out of it. No matter how many hours you work, you have, what do we call that for? 3, I think. No, we call it 2. Y equals 2. That means you always have $2. No matter how many hours you work. A volunteer job. That makes sense. You're getting paid $0 per hour. So if I work 1 hour, I have $2. If I work 2 hours, I have $3. If I work 2 hours, I have $2. If I work 1,000 hours, I still only have $2. That makes sense. That's a function. Here it doesn't make sense. If I work 4 hours, I have $0. If I work 4 hours, I have $1. If I work 4 hours, I have $2. It doesn't make sense here because you have an input of 4 hours that has an output of different monetary values. Remember, a vertical line is not a function.